morning. I'm going to call to order the school closing hearing for Broken Arrow Elementary School. The USD 497 Board of Education welcomes you and thanks you for taking time to participate in this public hearing. For the safety of all those in attendance, displays of signs or banners will not be permitted. If you have a sign or a banner, you will be asked to leave it outside the meeting room for the duration of the meeting. Today's public hearing is a meeting of the board held in public, not a discussion with the board. Please be respectful of the presenters, the board, and your fellow audience members as we hear the comments during today's hearing. Comments or actions that are threatening or disrespectful of presenters, the board, or others in attendance, and including use of foul language or any other behavior that is disruptive of the board meeting, will result in immediate removal from the meeting. Patrons will be invited to share comments as part of the public hearing portion of the meeting as outlined in Board Policy BCBI. That time is designated on today's agenda for members of the public to share their thoughts. It is not a time for dialogue with or a question and answer session with the board. Patrons who wish to participate in the public hearing must have filled out the public comment form. The district assumes no responsibility or liability for the information shared during the public hearing. The views expressed are solely those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Lawrence Public Schools. In addition, USD 497 will provide public access to this board meeting through posting a recording of the meeting on the platform used by the district for live streaming of our meetings. The platform used for this purpose has acceptable use rules for content on its site. While the district does not delete or hide board meeting videos, the platform may elect to do so if the content of the public comment or any other portion of the meeting is found to violate the platform's acceptable use rules. Thank you for your cooperation in these areas. At this time, I invite Dr. Lewis on behalf of the board to share some background information before we open the public hearing. Thank you.
Thank you, Board President Kimball. Good morning, everyone. First of all, I want to acknowledge Amanda, there you are, Principal of Broken Arrow, for opening up your doors to us, as well as the other Broken Arrow staff that are present here with us this morning. Thank you for allowing us to hear from the public here in your school. Just a few reminders, just a few reminders, and many of you received this in the form of a flyer. Shannon has already went over some of this. Just a reminder in terms of the public sign up. And keep in mind that if you have family members or friends that could not make it here, but would like to make some comments relative to Broken Arrow, they can also attend the PE one at 2 o'clock. Public comments that, and I just mentioned that, and Shannon mentioned the on-site child care that's available right across the hallway. This is, maybe just come out here. Make sure I'm close to the, and create that barrier between us there. Okay, and the district will record the hearings. It's being recorded. Thank you to Zach Saltz and the amazing LHS staff for recording this session for us, and it will be available on our YouTube page that's listed there. And again, board meeting is Monday, March 27th. Patron commentary is always welcome there at the email address that you are aware of, or you can show up on Monday to sign up. Closing the school, this is from the statute, and please bear with me. I'm going to try to rush through this, but I want to make sure we provide time for you. That's why I have my notes here, so I can be mindful of that. But this comes from the statute that Board of Education of any school district may close any school building at any time the board determines that the building should be closed to improve the school system. The board may close this building by adopting a resolution, and that will take place if they choose to close it on Monday. To that effect, and they close more than one school in one resolution. The resolution must be adopted by the majority vote of the Board of Education and requires no other approval. Following the hearing, which is following today, and after consideration of the evidence submitted at the hearing, the board must determine whether the school building should be closed to improve the school system of the Unified School District. If the board finds the school should be closed, it must adopt a resolution to close the school. If the board concludes the school should remain open, then no further action is required. That comes straight from the statute, and we also have a couple of board policies there, BCAE and AG as it relates to school closures. So some background information. I want to make sure I provide this information for you. Many of you have heard this before, that the district has been experiencing some challenges as it relates to declining enrollment, and as a result of that, some loss of funding. The district cannot continue to afford to operate in that manner in terms of annual inflationary costs that are within the limitations of the Kansas State funding of public schools. These funding implications also have contributed to the depletion of the district's contingency fund, and that's the district's savings account. And so, as well as the challenges, ongoing challenges that we experience as it relates to the national teacher and workforce shortage, as it relates to retaining high-quality staff. And so we have kicked the can down the road. Previous boards have kicked the can down the road. Previous superintendents have kicked the can down the road. Since I got here 5 years ago, we've been kicking the can down the road, and it's getting heavier and heavier. And so the school board this year hired RSP and Associates, an organization that they have been working with previously for probably about the previous 12 years to do annual projections. They hired them to facilitate a futures planning process. And that process included a broad-based variety of stakeholders. Maybe some of you were part of the future planning process. Parents and staff members. And they studied the community concerns and suggested ways to accomplish these budget savings. The process also included a community survey, which many of you participated in. We also had 2 community input sessions, one at Free State, one at Lawrence High. There was an online feedback form and other public input opportunities. And so the board identified these priorities as it relates to reallocation of budget savings for competitive staff wages. These were the 3 priorities from the Futures Planning Committee, and they were to achieve competitive wages for staff, allocate funds for annual cost increase, and then increase the district cash balances, contingency reserve, or savings account. So guided by the work of the Futures Planning Committee as well as community input, district administration recommended to the board a plan that included school closure. After several hours of discussion, many of you were at that board meeting on February 27th, that turned into February 28th, early in the morning. The board did approve a schedule to publish the hearings for potential closure of Broken Arrow and Pinckney Elementary Schools. The district does plan to use those facilities for other educational purposes should they choose to close them. Many of you are reminded that the board did remove Woodlawn from the closing consideration. The board's boundary advisory committee has met to consider boundary changes and the impact to the students and families if these potential closures happen, as also a way to redistribute elementary students to their school attendance centers. The boundary advisory committee has recommended changes effective beginning the 23-24 school year. It's also critically important to the success and the vitality of the district that we also make sure we're looking at this from a manner of addressing those priorities. These are the current savings as a result of the previous meeting. Many of you remember that the board did approve middle and high school staff reductions, which we are in the process of operationalizing now. And then the 2 proposals for the 2 elementary schools for an estimated savings of $3.8 to $4 million. And so again, if after today, which we're scheduled to have these public hearings, the board decides to close the school, then these would be those savings. And the board has prioritized these savings to meet that goal of providing competitive wages to recruit and retain high-quality staff. And so, as we look at Broken Arrow, I shared this at the board meeting previously. It has our current enrollment capacity, the number of staff here at the building composite score that came from the Futures Planning Committee, the equity impact, which that equity impact analysis asks several questions, which include who will benefit, who will not benefit, who is unintentionally being decentered or marginalized, what evidence can be provided to support or refute this construct, what are the anticipated barriers associated with this recommendation, and then what is the plan to address each barrier. So went through that process of looking at that from an equity standpoint. The rationale, received the least, Broken Arrow, as you know, received the least bond issue improvement, and it requires about $8.3 billion in renovations to support or improve the educational program. That includes the construction of walls here at this school. Potential use, extend space for Billy Mills Middle School potentially to support the innovation there for our 6th graders. And then also potential uses to have a Native American Student Services Center. As we continue to look at our data as it relates to our Native American students, this is an opportunity to potentially have an opportunity to serve our Native American scholars and families. I'll go more in detail at Pinckney. We've also had some, as a result of the Boundary Advisory Committee work, this is the map, I think we had that on the handout. and the maps over here, so I won't spend a lot of time there. This is the new map and what that will mean for Broken Arrow students. Here, we have about 69 students that will attend quarterly, 30 students to Langston Hughes, 15 to Prairie Park, 96 to Sweatler, and 13 students will attend Sunflower. And then again, all these counts are estimates based on current enrollment and projections. That's Pinckney and some other boundary shifts that impacted some other students in the district there. And let me just acknowledge this here. That was all the hard data, right, and the process that we used to get to this point. Now I want to acknowledge the reality of everyone involved as it relates to the potential closing of Broken Arrow. We know that this is an emotional decision. We acknowledge that there will be loss. We acknowledge that there will be hurt. There is hurt. There is pain. There will be continued pain from this. But we don't take that lightly. We do recognize that. And I will tell you, as a student, I experienced that. Now, that was many years ago, where my school in 4th grade closed, and I had to go to another school just for 1 year for 5th grade. So as a student, I know what that feels like. As a principal, I know what that feels like. Being in a district that closed 36 schools in 1 year, I know what that feels like to have several other schools, and this was a district with 100% free reduced lunch rate. I know what that feels like to have 5 different other schools coming into your building, and the poverty that was associated with that, and the transition that was associated with that. So I understand that it is not an easy decision for this board. It's not an easy decision for administration. So I want to acknowledge that. And with every decision, we have to make sure that we are making the best possible decision with the best interest of students in mind. Now that may sound counterintuitive, that we want to make the best decisions for students in mind and then close their school. However, we know that as we look at our resources and the projections, in order for us to provide a high quality, world-class education to every single student in this district, we have to look at some of the ways that we've been operating in the past and the way we want to operate and set this district up for future success. So I just wanted to take a minute to acknowledge that. And as we continue to grapple with this decision, and the board continues to grapple with this decision, we are keenly aware of the families that purchased a home in this district for this school. Some of you I've talked to and know that story. I recognize and understand that the impact of now potentially going to another school. So those are things that we are keenly aware of and continue to make sure that we will provide supports. I saw a colleague here, I think she was texting a student a moment ago, just so she can hear what the supports that you will need as we continue this transition. So our next steps, if after consideration of all testimony that the board hears from you, whether it's concerns that you have, even suggestions, this will be a public hearing. The board will hear from you, will not be a debate, so they will hear and listen to you, write and take notes as they continue to grapple with their decision. Okay? With that, I will turn it back over to Shannon.
Thank you, Dr. Lewis. Okay, at this time, we will open the public hearing. I am going to invite to the podium those who signed up to give comment during the public hearing. We have 35 members of the public who have signed up to give comment. So when your name is called, please come to the microphone. You will have 3 minutes to speak. I'm actually going to do this the way that we did it at our board meeting on the 27th. I'm going to call the speaker, and then I'm going to ask the next 2 people to be ready to speak. So you can queue up in the aisle behind the speaker at the microphone, and I'll keep calling who's the next person in line to make sure that we can move through our comments more speedily that way. Any handouts that you may have, please hand them to our board clerk for distribution to board members. When you come to the microphone, I will just remind you, please make sure you speak right into the microphone so that the sound can be picked up on the video recording and so that everybody in the room can hear you clearly, and appreciate your cooperation in that regard. So at this time, I'd ask the board, a motion is in order to open the public hearing.
This is GR, I move that we open the public hearing.
This is Kay, I second. Shannon Kimball.
Yes.
Paula Smith. Yes. Erica Hill,
Yes.
Carol Kennedy Blackwood,
Yes.
Kate Emerson,
Yes.
G.R. Gordon Ross,
Yes.
Kelly Jones.
Yes.
The motion passes 7-0. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, this time we will begin, and I would invite Alex Landazuri as our first speaker to the podium. You will have 3 minutes. Our board clerk will have the timer on the table here. And the next 2 speakers are Kylie Phelps and Rakan Hoffer. And if Rakan is not here, the next speaker after that is Angie West.
Hi, as you know, my name is Alex Landazuri. My daughter is a second grader here, soon to hopefully be a third grade student here. The first thing I want to mention is your thoughts about repurposing this building. I don't know how you guys are going to save money on this. You're going to have to make more modifications to the building to use it as a middle school or whatever else you're planning to do. So, okay, probably $1 million, easy to upgrade facilities, to get different furniture, and to get things that will make it work for a middle school student. Same with the NASS students. The next thing I want to talk about is the inability of Dr. Lewis to admit that he needs to make changes at the administration level. The top 20 administrators of the district make over $2.1 million. Cut 20% off of that, you have another school. So with his inability to look at that, the board needs to do your job and make sure that you force him to make those changes. You're already cutting schools. You're trying to cut your teachers. So why aren't you cutting the administration? If we can't afford to keep schools open, if we can't afford to keep schools, we can't afford to keep the administrators at the current level that we're getting paid at. So with that, I'll leave it to the rest. Have a good day.
Okay, members of the public, I'm going to ask you to hold your applause throughout the hearing. We need to make sure that everybody gets an opportunity to speak in the time we have allotted. You can show your appreciation in quiet ways, but please no applause. Our next speaker is Kylie Phelps. Thank you. And Angie West, and then, I'm sorry, Lauren Brewer is next after that. Please make sure you step all the way up to the mic. You're too far away. There you go. Thank you very much.
According to the RSP graphs and data, it shows that if you vote to close schools, that over 485 students that will be affected. That's 15.1%. But that percent does not include the students not moving to new schools that will also be affected by larger class sizes and less options and time for mental health resources. The BAC is recommending that Deerfield will increase by 18%, Woodlawn by 24%, Corley by 25%, and Schwegler will increase student population by 30%. The Sunflower principal just stated on Wednesday night during the BAC meeting that she was very concerned about the increased number of students with higher needs being moved into new schools and the large class sizes. Her school is already facing these high demands now with limited resources. The school district has communicated that Broken Arrow needs to close because of the underutilization of its school. Again, according to the RSP charts, Broken Arrow is projected to have a continuous positive enrollment growth, jumping from 81% or 81.1% over the next 5 years. Only 3 other schools have that kind of positive projections. At no point do Broken Arrow enrollment projections indicate below 75% utilization in any given upcoming year. I want to refer to the equality policy the USD 497 has in place. It states that it will effectively eliminate systems and structures that create advantages for some students and families while disadvantaging others. Board members need to recognize how they are making decisions that impact people whose families are already vulnerable. These closings will have a huge impact on students and families and the staff. They are the ones that bear the stress of the displacement. Often these students and families are facing the most obstacles in other areas of their lives. Adding yet another school closing on this side of Lawrence becomes a vicious cycle where they punish those who already have less and putting those students in a disadvantage, going against your very own policies. The city of Lawrence is an unequal society when it comes to school closing. History has shown that the lower income communities of East and South Lawrence repeatedly pay the ultimate price when it comes to our schools closing and our students' education. Please vote no to closing Broken Arrow. Thank you.
Thank you. Rakan Hoffer, are you here? Okay, Angie West, you are next, and then Lauren Brewer and Yolanda Franklin.
Good morning. First, I want to say that my advocacy to not close Broken Arrow does not mean that I don't care about our teachers' pay. I want to be very clear about that.
Please step up to the microphone a little bit. I want to make sure that you're heard on the recording. Thanks.
I want to ask the school board, how have you gone to the city commission and advocated to increase the population of families coming into the city? We have an obligation to make this a town that people want to live in. It is a community built on diversity, education, and our progressive nature. And I don't see that there's any collaboration. We have new industry coming to this area that will directly benefit this area of the city. But preemptively closing this school and not allowing this town to be attractive, dropping our property values in this area, will be detrimental to our community. For people like myself, and I'm not the only one, who have to leave Lawrence to go to Kansas City to get a living wage, to bring those taxes back to this city because I believe in this community, these boundaries are unacceptable to my work-life balance. I cannot get my children to a school at 8:45 and also bring back money to this town. I appreciate that there was a future planning committee. I appreciate all the work that they did. I appreciate their voices were heard, but I don't think it was creative enough. We have come up to you multiple times asking for more creative looks, including administrative cuts, and that never seems to be heard. It is only ever get rid of teachers and close schools, affect our families. And while I appreciate Dr. Lewis today saying that he recognized how emotional this can be, I believe this is one of the only times that I've actually heard him say it with heart. I have read what is said in these meetings. I've been at these meetings, and I just don't believe that the heart is there. Again, this is not me saying that I don't want our teachers to be paid. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Lauren Brewer, and then Yolanda Franklin and Christy Wemby Bellinger. Is Yolanda here, or Lauren? Okay, Lauren's not here. Yolanda Franklin? Okay. Christy Wemby Bellinger? I'm sorry if I didn't pronounce your name correctly.
I've lived with him my whole life.
I try to do a good job with that.
You're okay. If it would please the board, my daughter signed up to speak as well. Can she come up with me at this time? She, Simon Kennison.
Okay. Okay, I see, yes. Please come on up, Kennison. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Christy Wemby Bellinger. I am a third generation Lawrencian, raising the fourth. I am an alumni of this district. I was the class of 2000 at Lawrence High. I am the third generation to go through USD 497, and I'm the second, Kennison is the third. I wanted to ask, sorry, my husband is trying to call me, but she knows why I'm here.
How dare he?
I hope he sees that online. Anyway, so why my lineage in Douglas County is so important, I'll get to in just a moment. But first I want to ask the budget savings. Superintendent Lewis, I appreciate the fact that you have been open about the different budget savings that closing schools will do. However, repurposing a junior high repurposing an elementary school into a junior high, how much millions of dollars are we going to spend to do this? Are we not chasing our tails? We're trying to save money, but we're going to spend money to utilize a building. Forecasting. as some others have mentioned, have we even looked into the exponential growth that we're going to experience in the next 5 years with the Panasonic plant moving into DeSoto? Yes, DeSoto, Eudora, they are going to experience an exponential amount of growth. However, those communities, they're wonderful, but they do not have what Lawrence has: the shopping, the arts, the entertainment, the school districts. The Panasonic plant is just a quick drive down K-10. Those families that are going to be moving here for those jobs are going to be looking for places to live along this corridor, which impacts Broken Arrow. If you look just south of or east of Walmart, how many of those apartment complexes are being built? They're not student housing. They are family housing. Many of us multi-generational Lawrence members know how this community works. That's why we chose to come back here and raise our families. Sure, we have ebbs and flows, as every community does, but we talk about kicking the can. Where did we kick that can? Because if we kicked that can in 2010 when we closed Wakarusa Valley Elementary School, we already knew that was confirmed by the 2010 census data that the most growth in Douglas County came from the Wakarusa Township and Clinton Township that fed directly into Wakarusa Valley Elementary, yet that school was closed. Looking at 2020 census data, the main growth in Douglas County has been Wakarusa and Clinton Townships, which feed directly into Broken Arrow. It makes no sense to close. I challenge each of these members of the board to truly outweigh the outcomes of these proposals and who it affects: children like Kennison. And parents like me, we're frustrated. We respect the work that you are doing, we respect the hours that you're putting in, but we feel that our children's lives are being played in a financial chess game. Thank you.
Kennison, would you like to speak also? Okay, thank you.
Hi, my name is Kennison, and I really like this school because I basically grew up here. I've never been to another school. And shout out to Miss Coy to always making sure us kids belong here.
Thank you, Kennison. Okay, next, Lisa Potter, then Kaylin McCall and Laura Newman.
Hi, my name is Lisa Potter. I'm the mother of 3 kids, 2 of which attend Broken Arrow. I'm also a social worker in this community, and I'm on the Kansas Social Work Board. I wanted to speak today to share my concerns for kids unheard with fewer advocates, often resulting from systemic racism and lack of resources. There are many people here today, but I want to speak up for the kids and their families that couldn't make it. They also depend on our school. I am here to help you understand what you're deciding to take away from the community by closing our school. Broken Arrow is a school that's currently at 78% capacity and is projected to grow. Many of the families and children at this school walk to school every day and depend on that before and after school care. Transfer schools for Broken Arrow kids are too far to walk and not far enough to offer busing. Closing the school will remove walking as an option for kids. They will lose their safe routes to school. The family after school plan may also include Boys and Girls Club at Broken Arrow, which is often at near capacity. BGC clubs at the proposed transfer schools are also at near capacity. Again, you are taking away spots for children in after-school care by closing a BGC site. Broken Arrow and Pinckney are Title I schools with resources for kids that I'm advocating for today. As a social worker, I'm a therapist for adults who struggle with loss, depression, trauma, and attachment. Recently, the CDC reports that in the U.S. we have had an alarming spike of suicide rates since the pandemic, specifically for American Indian, Alaska Native, Black, African American, and for Hispanic persons. Additionally, rates among Black adolescents and young adults increased significantly. This is not the case for non-Hispanic white persons. That rate declined for all age groups. The proposed schools for closure are in more diverse neighborhoods with populations experiencing the recent spike in suicide rates and lower life expectancy. Isolation and lack of attachment increases depression and suicide rates. Closing schools will be increasing social isolation and difficulty with trusting new people, especially among this vulnerable population. Kids being removed from Title I schools will lose a parent involvement facilitator, RAP workers, math and reading enrichment services.
Thank you, Lisa. Your time has expired. Appreciate you being here.
I got tearful and I'm sorry, but
I understand.
can I say my
No, I'm
last
sorry.
sentence?
I have to apply this
Okay,
rule to
just
everyone.
please, you're in a unique situation to be able to help these kids.
If you have comments
Thank
that are
you.
in writing, you can certainly email them to the board. Thank
I
you.
will. Here, actually, can
Or
I?
you can give them to our
Yeah.
board. Thank you.
Here.
And she'll share them with us.
These kids are
Kayla
vulnerable and they're
McCall,
important.
then Laura Newman, and Cersei Dawson.
Good morning. I'm Kaylin McCall, parent of 2 Broken Arrow students, PTA president, and a member of the Broken Arrow Site Council. I keep hearing that because Lawrence has lost students, we have no choice but to close schools. But our school does not have the declining enrollment of other schools in the district. Our capacity for next school year is projected to be at 79%, which is higher than Quail Run and Deerfield and only slightly lower than Sunset Hill. It's the 5th highest of the 13 elementary schools. And RSP's projections have us staying steady over the next 5 years. In fact, we saw on their heat map, the neighborhood near our school has one of the highest concentrations of students in the district. We know that when given the opportunity to vote on neighborhood schools, voters in Lawrence support them in overwhelming numbers, as we've seen with past bond issues. In the City of Lawrence's strategic plan adopted in 2020, there's an outlined focus on strong, welcoming neighborhoods that includes neighborhood schools as a success measure. So why would you close a school with a solid student population that satisfies a community goal? Is there some better use proposed for this building? Something innovative like the district pursued with Kennedy or New York, or is planning to pursue with Central Middle School? The answer is no. The building's going to sit here vacant. The school, surrounded by families with school-age children who have been moving into this neighborhood drawn by a school they can walk or bike to. The school that conveniently serves our rural students by allowing them to share bus routes with their older siblings. And consider the fact that our building is physically connected to Billy Mills Middle School, a campus shared between the 2 schools. The district won't be able to sell this vacant building or the land. They'll have to continue paying overhead at tens of thousands of dollars a year. Things like insurance, utilities, lawn care, for it to sit unused. And given the physical connection between the 2 buildings, it's probably unwise to let HVAC repairs go undone, like they did in East Heights, and then spent $215,000 on mold remediation when they weren't maintained. We don't want to let things get out of hand and spill over to the health of the students in the building next door. What would the district save by closing this building? A mere $300,000 by eliminating the administrative positions. Our principal, our admin assistant, our nurse, our counselor, the people who know the names of every one of our current 271 students, who know their families, their needs, how to support and encourage them. It's not the building we're afraid of losing, it's our school community. The connections, the sense of belonging, the things that don't happen overnight. They take time and nurturing. And when that trust is broken and taken away, can you get it back? It all adds up to very little gain for an overwhelming amount of sacrifice. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Laura Newman, then Cersei Dawson, and Paul Radley.
Good morning. An energy efficient school district with 4,000 students could save as much as $160,000 a year in energy operating costs, which for a district of our size could amount to $440,000 annual savings or more. One way to obtain these savings would be to take advantage of the Kansas program called FCIP, which stands for Facility Conservation Improvement Program. An example of the program's success was in 2016 when the city of Lawrence implemented projects across the entire city with the assistance of the FCI program and one of their contracting consultant firms, Wilden. At the time, there was an estimated savings of $450,000 a year using the program. In 2020, the results showed the actual savings closer to $550,000 a year. In order to move in that direction to obtain the savings of this magnitude, the district would need to first make changes to their existing energy equipment. The program includes methods of financing, designing, and installing comprehensive energy-efficient improvements with little to no upfront capital. The program would utilize an energy savings performance contract, which is a budget-neutral way to finance the improvements. To put it simply, paying for today's facility upgrades with tomorrow's savings. Updates could include HVAC, lighting, and update building controls. The three goals of the FCIP are to achieve savings for our school budget by lowering our current energy consumption as well as cost, take advantage of a no-cost consultation, allow spending to be utilized on its intention to fund our children's education. Not only could this program benefit the buildings across this district with updated energy efficient and cost savings equipment, it can also help upgrade the lighting and improve air quality to improve the students' learning environment, leading to enhanced performance in our public education system. I firmly believe that a strong and unified city investing in energy efficient measures could include the collaboration of our school district and the city planning together for our children's future. Having a strong energy-focused community to help retain our current families will attract new ones for growth. We need to keep our neighborhood schools open. As a third-generation Lawrence resident with the fourth generation currently at Broken Arrow, I would encourage all the school board members to vote no to closing neighborhood schools and consider alternate methods to trim the fat while at the same time ensuring the best current energy savings technology and cost savings as a reward. If the board would like to check their emails for a follow-up email with me with additional resources, including grant information, thank you for all your time, consideration, and willingness to work with the community who elected you.
Thank you. Cersei Dossett, and then Paul Radley and Josephine Landis.
Good morning. My name is Cersei Dossett. I want to thank all of the speakers that have come before me and for you guys having us here. I have notes, but I left them because I was in a rush, so I'm just going to speak from the heart, so bear with me. There's a lot of discussion about low enrollments and projections. And I think at the end of the day, we need to remember what it is our job is to serve the students. It's not to serve our pocketbooks. It is to provide an environment in which kids feel safe, they are given a good education, and that they are happy. Rather than closing a school and creating a potentially greater problem for the reputation of our school district, why don't we think of ways to incentivize people to come to our town? We have the Panasonic company coming. Spirit Airline is bringing their corporate headquarters to this area as well. Rather than closing yet another school and potentially building one on the west side of town after 300 plus homes are built over there, why don't we give people a reason to come here, to trust us with their children? I've purchased 2 homes, both of which I've done specifically for this school, specifically for the boundaries that we've been provided with our homes. And with the proposed changes, my middle school daughter and my elementary school daughter would be on 2 separate bus routes. That's a concern for me. My first grader, I don't want her just by herself. I feel comfortable with her being with her older sister. I have a 4-year-old son who will eventually, hopefully, be coming to Broken Arrow. I would like him to be on the same bus as his older sister who will be in kindergarten. And so I know that that's a personal thing, but I think, again, at the end of the day, we need to remember what our job is, and it is to protect our children, not to make money. Any business person will tell you, though, that if you focus on your product and your customer service, the gains will come to you. If we have a good system that provides a good education and we keep strong teachers, who a lot of them are here today, then the profit will come if we do our jobs right. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Paul Radley is next, then Justine Landis and Kevin Elliott.
Good morning. Thank you. My name is Paul Radley. Thank you for your time and listening to what we have to say. I am the father of 2 students here at Broken Arrow. My daughter is in first grade, Virginia, and my son is a 3rd grader, George. He seems to know everyone here, all of the students and all of the faculty, veteran faculty. Some of them have been here their entire careers, and they know all of the students that have been through here for generations. In 2 years, if Broken Arrow were to be here, my youngest child would be here, so we would have a student in kindergarten, 3rd, and 5th grade. And it's that community, that continuity within these halls and with these people, the relationships that the teachers and the members of this community have, that is at risk right now. We're talking about taking that away, drawing boundaries, separating the community. A school is more than just a building. It's more than just a place where people come to be educated. It is part of the community, as was just mentioned. A lot of us are drawn here because of the school, and so we're brought together. And what we're proposing now is a divide. We're going to put boundaries that are going to separate our communities. Instead, we should be coming together to solve problems. My job as an engineer, I work to solve problems. And as that, I understand that sometimes the appropriate solution is not one that's favorable. But I also understand that the most important part of solving a problem is solving the correct problem. You have to define the problem and you have to solve it correctly. If you solve the wrong problem, if you put a Band-Aid on something, then that doesn't fix the problem. It gets the can kicked a little bit further down. And I think that we have a systemic problem of making the wrong choices and distributing funds incorrectly to wrong locations that set up schools like ours to look like we're failing, and that's the correct choice. My eldest is graduating from Lawrence High this year. She's a senior. She's glad she's leaving when she is. She lost out to the budget cuts. She was part of the Latin program that was cut. She's frustrated and ashamed of what the school board is doing, and she's happy to be going now while she can. I challenge you guys to do your jobs, to protect the quality of the education of our students, to protect our teachers, and to protect our communities, and not just the dollars. Thank you.
Okay, next is Justine Landis, then Kevin Elliott, then Clayton Snow.
Hi, I'm speaking. I'm here speaking on behalf of my daughter, Lily Landis. She's a 3rd grader here at Broken Arrow, and she's been here since kindergarten. I would not be doing this if it wasn't for Lily, but here I am. So one thing I want to comment on, I've heard quite a few times in these meetings, is that Broken Arrow doesn't have any walls. Well, somehow this school has functioned for 55 years just fine with no walls. I just have a really hard time, and I know a lot of parents share my frustration. You guys are saving $300,000 for just one school. And you guys keep saying that over the last 5 years, you're kicking the can down the road. So you knew there was problems, but yet we keep adding administrators, we keep giving them raises, but we can't look at anything else other than closing schools and cutting teachers. I know, all these parents have said the same things over and over, and you guys are sick of hearing it. I'm sick of hearing it. I just want my kid, to go to her school she loves. I'm biased, I'm sorry. It's just how it is. I know you guys have your biases too, that, you don't want to see any admins that you've hired in the last few years cut, but you know, when we're in these bad situations, that's the reality of how the business world works. My job would not hesitate to cut me if they were having financial problems. Sorry. The other thing, I had another comment. I lost my train of thought. Like I said, I know you guys have heard the same things over and over again. I don't know what else to say other than we love this school, and if you guys come here ever during dismissal, you'll see how many kids walk from this neighborhood. We're one of the people that, with her likely going to Schweigler, there's no way she'd be able to walk. We'd have to either go all the way up Louisiana and then down 23rd Street, or the other option would be to cut through Naismith Valley Park, which also has several homeless encampments, which I've been harassed by before. So that's not really a safe option either. Thank you.
Thank you. Kevin Elliott, then Clayton Snow, then Piper Phelps.
Hi there, my name is Kevin Elliott. I'm from Lawrence. I graduated Lawrence High, class of '83. My husband and I have 2 children that attend Broken Arrow. I'm really disappointed with this entire process. I consider it a bunch of malarkey. The school boards manufactured the statistics they wanted. It didn't fit in your scenario to include Panasonic in the projections, so you just dismissed it. Well, we reject your statistics. When an educational institution works with flawed math, it shows a lack of integrity, honesty, and transparency, and a corrupt school board. The superintendent commented that those of us against the school closure were emotional. Well, I reject that as disrespectful and dishonest. It's a dismissal of our point of view. It's weak and corrupt. We are reasonable, rational human beings, and we are using logic and reason. The school board selected the 4 poorest and most diverse neighborhoods and let us fight for ourselves for scraps, sort of like the Hunger Games, while the wealthy and elite sit back and laugh. This is the definition of institutional discrimination. It is not equity, diversity, and inclusion. Habitat for Humanity has shown that neighborhoods that lose community schools suffer the following. They lose property value. They lose loss of local income. Crime increases. There's a lack of meeting community educational standards. There are higher school dropout rates. I'm not playing anymore. I'm tired. And I'm tired of the school board attacking our most at-risk children and dismissing the families as simply emotional. If you are unable or unwilling to meet the needs of the most vulnerable children in our district, then you're unable to do your job. And if you refuse to be equitable, it's time to find somebody who will. Recall.
Clayton Snow, then Piper Phelps, then K.R. Miller.
Hello, I'm Clayton Snow. I'm the father of 2 Broken Arrow students. I echo much of what has been said, but something I don't think has been addressed a lot is that with the proposed plan in place, the racial divide in Lawrence will be increased in schools and as follows in neighborhoods, and I don't think anybody wants to see Lawrence become more segregated than it is. Also, as stated before, the math just doesn't add up. To save a little bit of money, to spend more money down the road, it's not far-sighted. I want to see smart decisions being made, decisions that will benefit our students, not just in the immediate term, but in the long term as well. And this building gets used. It's a used building. To say it's underutilized is incorrect. It's misleading. And I wanted to echo that and add my own statements. Thank you.
Next is Piper Phelps, then K.R. Miller, then Alan Potter.
My name is Piper, and I'm a 4th grader here at Broken Arrow. My goal is selected by my peers to be in the student council. Here at my school, I've been taught to do math, read, and ask questions when trying to solve a problem. I have a question for you. I have read that my school is ranked number 2 in Lawrence and number 51 in the state of Kansas, and that's without walls in our classroom. How can you vote to close such a great school? This doesn't add up to me. My teachers, my mom, and Miss Green have said to always speak up when I see something that is hurting others. If you close my school, it will not just hurt me and my friends, but it will also hurt the community around Broken Arrow. Please do not divide me and my friends into 5 different schools, because friends always stick together. Please let them know it's called Broken Arrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Pepper. Next, Kara Miller, then Alan Potter, then Sarah Tolbert. Kara Miller here. Are you Alan? Okay, why don't you come on up? Thank you. Sarah Tolbert and then Dana Grammer.
Good morning. My name is Alan Potter. In 2014, my wife Lisa and I moved from East Lawrence to the Parkville neighborhood when our son Elias turned 2. A few years later, we were blessed with our daughter Magdalena. Our neighborhood is our family. Broken Arrow is our neighborhood, and it's the only school that our children have ever known. I've resigned myself to the cold reality that the district's agenda to close these schools is inevitable. The district claims operating these schools is no longer logistically or economically viable despite public insistence to prioritize funding to keep these schools open. Alternative solutions offered by the community have been unheeded or worse, simply ignored. The callous refusal to cut administrative salaries or position reeks of corruption and greed. The unwillingness to seek out innovative funding solutions highlights the board's complacency and lack of creativity. The district deems school closures necessary to secure well-deserved raises to attract and retain teachers. However, the district's decision to eliminate a significant number of teaching positions will increase educators' workload and dilute their ability and expertise in increasingly crowded classrooms. The proud legacy of these schools are intricately woven into the historical fabric of our community, state, and nation. The land for Broken Arrow was donated to the district by the Bureau of Indian Affairs to build an elementary school near Haskell. By closing Broken Arrow, the district chooses to betray the spirit of this generosity, piling up a broken promise to centuries of bad faith. Schools aren't just where we send our kids to learn. There are gardens, our after-school care, our practice and art spaces, playgrounds for our bodies, minds, and souls. It's the walks to school, spring flowers, autumn leaves, catching up with your neighbors, the views across the valley, the flags at sunrise. For some children, it's a sacred sanctuary away from the tumults of old home. Closing schools disrupts neighborhoods and runs counter to long-term city planning, which prioritizes growth and reinvestment within city limits, benefiting from existing infrastructure, emphasizing neighborhood integrity, identity, and cohesion. These schools are communities' beacons of support, essential elements of our shared and unique identity. Without them, our neighborhoods are diminished greatly.
Next, Sarah Tolbert, then Dana Grammer, then Ashley Bloom, if Ashley is here.
I had a hard time editing this. I wanted to talk about my concerns that the renovations necessary to make this building suitable for a middle school weren't being considered or accurately evaluated. I wanted to talk about my shock at seeing incredibly top-heavy administration, both in this district, both in number of jobs and salary size. I wanted to talk about the apparent unwillingness to look for alternate suggestions, to look into alternate suggestions brought to the board by the community, and the enormous class sizes we'll have after the closure. But what makes my heart hurt is seeing how well my son is known in the school and the thought of losing that. The number of students and staff in Broken Arrow who greet my son by name in the halls and know about his interests and his concerns is amazing. And I know that every single kid in this school has connections like that, not just with their friends, but with the staff too. And I know, because I have read the research, that those relationships, they are key to student success, and they take time to build. I also know, as important as this is to all of us, the school board and the district are primarily paying attention to money. So I want to make it extra clear. These relationships take time to build. Staff time costs money. The teachers, principals, and classified staff of schools all across the district have spent their precious time and the district's precious money building these relationships. It is an essential part of what they are paid to do. And now we're going to take all those working hours, all that money we have paid them to create the necessary learning community, and we're going to flush it down the toilet. We're going to spend more hours and more money to try to rebuild those relationships at other schools. And remember, this isn't just Broken Arrow and Pinckney. This is for every single student that gets shuffled around to a new school for the whole entire district. And I hate to say it, but it hasn't been long since the last closure. How many times can we uproot these kids? How many times do we have to pay to rebuild their damaged community? Study after study after study shows that students who are known and supported in their school community get better grades, perform better on standardized tests, and have better graduation rates. Those metrics are what families are looking at when they decide to move to Lawrence. When those metrics start to fall, parents will take their kids out of school in this district. Parents will choose to move out of the district. Parents will not choose to come here in the first place, which all costs the district money. Even if you can't prioritize or don't care to prioritize children's social and emotional well-being, I hope you can see that closing this school will also have a financial cost. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Dana Grammer, and then Ashley Bloom, are you here? Okay, after Dana, we're going to take a 5-minute break, and then we will resume the hearing with the remainder of the speakers. Thank you.
Good morning. I come here as a
Miss,
mom.
I'm sorry, you got to get closer to the mic because we can't hear you. Yes.
Good morning. I come here as a mom, friend, neighbor, and local child care provider. My family moved into the Indian Hills neighborhood in 2004. We began a 17-year string, grammar, Broken Arrow, partnership filled with love, lifelong connections, and amazing memories. This is the first year that this building has not had a grammar step inside. But you should, next year. For 17 years, I have watched children grow up in this neighborhood. I have watched older siblings walk over from South and Billy Mills, pick up their younger siblings, and make that walk home. Next year, we are looking at our building, sitting in tea while those younger siblings are divided out to schools around this town. None of that are walking distance for a kindergartner or any kid in elementary school, if you ask me. Yet not far enough to be bused. The current schools these kids have set to go to have 9 a.m. start times. How will these parents get their children to school when these families have to work at 8 a.m.? Remember, they're now older siblings, friends, neighbors who have walked them are not available to help. Meanwhile, their older siblings will walk across the street, the neighbor around the corner or down the block. This area in particular is a hot spot on your map for kids, and those numbers, I promise you, are only rising. The generational flip in this neighborhood is real. I'm watching it. Remember, I've lived here for 18 years. We have recently added a neighborhood with young children, and those numbers are on the rise. In addition, the city has recently begun the process of allowing for a large amount of homes to be built in the current VA boundaries. Where will we put these children? I am a licensed child care provider in this neighborhood and currently have zero idea how I will be able to help my current families who were set to attend Broken Arrow next year walk home with my Billy Mills middle schooler. They are now set to be at Corliss, Schweigler, and Sunflower. I will have to purchase a larger van that seats at least 10 and try to find a way to get these kids to 3 different schools that all happen to have a late start and departure time. I also wonder if you have looked at the neighborhoods these schools are located in. These schools were not designed for parent pickups and drop-offs. They were designed to be walked to. We now are adding to everyday pickup nightmare by increasing all of these school sizes. Every year we hold walk your child to school days. This is now impossible. Many will say get a transfer. The transfer process in this district is seemingly impossible. Many are looking to transfer out of necessity for after-school care in a licensed environment and are denied. Yes, I've had a preschool child denied a kindergarten transfer into this school, yet it's not full. Explain that one to me. Lastly, the teachers, the reason we are here in the first place, or so you all say. I have yet to hear what the dollar amount equates to for our teachers. Surely you have a number. You have numbers for everything else. Our teachers are overworked, underappreciated, and severely underpaid. Yet in the survey you sent out, the majority said they'd rather have smaller classes than higher pay. But here we are, cramming their classrooms with more students, and let's just be honest, the base penny will be laughable. This is not how we retain teachers and better our schools. These are not just buildings. Broken Arrow is not defunct because it doesn't have floor-to-ceiling walls. My 5 children have all went through this building, have been honorable students, members of band, IPS, debate, basketball, baseball, football, dance team members. Upon graduation, they came back and coached here. But best of all, every single one of them have teachers who love them, have helped raise them, and it all started here in this amazing building. Please think about the children you are affecting with this decision. This is their home and their community.
Ma'am, thank you.
We
You
have
can
closed
provide the rest of your comments to the board clerk. Thank you. Okay, I'm calling a 5-minute recess. We will resume in this room at, well, let's say, it's actually a few minutes more than 5 minutes, at 10 after 11. Thank you. The first three individuals on the sign up are Ashley Bloom, if you are here, and then Christina Bloomquist and Christopher Mala. Ashley? Yes, okay. If you just give the clerk just a moment to get the timer ready, and then you can start.
I'm so sorry, and thank you for...
It's okay. Please make sure that you stand real close to the mic. Thanks.
Okay. I'm a little worse. I've got some allergies going on, but... well, my name is Ashley Bloom. I'm a family physician at East Heights Family Care in East Orange. I'm also a Pinky Panther parent. And you know, in my work as a family doctor, I have a lot of vulnerable conversations with members of our community. You kind of have to be an effective doctor. And so people have shared comments with me that perhaps in their most vulnerable, in some of their most vulnerable situations, similar to the way I imagine they do with our frontline educators, with our teachers, with our parent involvement facilitators, with our counselors in our elementary schools. And I think that's part of what makes this so hard. Because it's really intimidating to get up here and say the things that you're most scared of in a public forum like this, and to feel like that's an okay space to do it. I will say I think that there's a lot of opportunity for our community to come together. As I was walking in, I saw the chalk on the sidewalk saying "We love Broken Arrow," and I truly think that there is not a person in this room, not a person anywhere in this room, who does not love Broken Arrow, who does not love the work that is going on here. I think that we are at a really hard point where we need to reach out to our community and draw on their strengths to help us, because we can't do this alone. We as parents, as students, we can't do this alone. You as educators, you can't do this alone, and you as our school board, you can't do it alone. So we need more time. And so that's why I'm asking for us to continue the conversation, continue these vulnerable discussions in open, respectful dialogue, and to move forward together. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Christina Bloomquist, and then Christopher Mala and Catherine Tuttle.
Hi. I am a new family to the Broken Arrow School District. I just enrolled my future kindergartner in the school district, and I'm very concerned that I don't know where he's going to go next year. I am hoping that we walk to school today because we wanted to try walking the kindergarten. I also am a social worker, case manager in the school district, or not in the school district, but for the community. And I see vulnerable populations day in and day out. I help register people for school as one of the things I've helped. I've learned so much about the community as my role, but also, so there's lots of concerns with a school being closed. I used to be a receptionist at my office, and I fantasized over the idea of becoming a receptionist in the school district. So I could be off when my son's out of school, so I could be off during the summertime. But the last few years, as I fantasized this idea, I am scared to switch jobs to become in the school district because I'm likely to be wanting to get cut. But I also know the risks of a budget, but the school district is not. We're here to educate our kids and grow our children to become leaders. They're going to be up here someday advocating for our schools, for our government, for everything, and for us to cut schools, close schools, and not allow them the opportunity to grow. My kiddo was out on the playground just a little bit ago because he's not used to that. He's not used to being around the crowds. He cried and came back in, and he is sitting next to me during this meeting because it's important for him to see and to grow an advocate, and I'm terrified of public speaking, so I'm facing my fear today for my kiddo, and so I hope that you vote no for closing the school because we are in walking distance. We walked, like I said, to school today. We have so many families in our neighborhood in the last 4 years that we've lived here. In this neighborhood, not just here in Lawrence, we've been here about 9 years now. So I've seen the growth in our community, which will grow Broken Arrow. There are people having kids still. In a few years, there'll be more and more kids coming in. And I'm concerned that you're not adding the kindergarten, upcoming kindergarten in your counts, because, like I said, there's more growth in the community.
Thank you. Okay, next is Christopher Molla, then Catherine Tuttle, and Sarah Hess, I believe.
Hi, good morning. My name is Christopher Molla, and we too are, my family's new to this neighborhood. We moved here in July, and we have a 6th grader, Billy Mills. And so, while we don't have a student who's going to Broken Arrow, we'll certainly feel the impacts should Broken Arrow be closed, because my understanding is that this is going to result in an expansion of the population at Billy Mills. Class sizes are going to increase, and of course, this is going to have an impact on the education of the middle schoolers at Billy Mills. And furthermore, I see a lot of rhetoric about wanting to continue to pay teachers and retain good teaching talent, and that's great. But if you're going to put all that added pressure on teachers, particularly at the middle school level, and they're going to have to deal with increased class sizes, that's going to have a negative impact on the kids' education, on your ability, the school district's ability to attract teaching talent and retain the teachers you already have. So that is a long-term effect. Also, I know, I can tell the logistics of the logistical difficulties that families are going to incur, they translate into genuine economic difficulties too. And if you're doing all right economically, but you're living planet paycheck to paycheck or close to it, little things like added stress on your vehicle, getting kids to and from schools before they can walk, those hardships can become real tipping points. And I've learned a lot in this meeting. I've been hearing about all the details of the families and how they're going to struggle dealing with this. And those impacts are going to be real, and they are going to have long-term ripple effects, economically and socially in this neighborhood. And experiencing all the emotion behind these comments make me actually even more pleased, more joyous, coming to Lawrence in the first place, and to this neighborhood in particular. This is really the genuineness of all the people here. It's really heartening. And so I think all those things need to be taken into consideration for real.
Thank you. Next is Catherine Tuttle, then Sarah Hess, and Eve Bonner.
Good morning. Thank you for this opportunity to speak today, and I really appreciate everyone who has talked today and the heartfelt feelings here. I know this is an incredibly difficult process for parents, for students, for the teachers, for the administrators, and for the board members, so I know it's not without pain for a lot of us. I've lived in Lawrence since 1968, and I recently moved from Old West Lawrence to the Park Hill neighborhood, so I guess it's just my misfortune that my two schools, Pinckney and Broken Arrow, are on the block. I am not a parent, I am not a grandparent, I'm a neighbor. And so I just want to speak to the neighbors to whom schools are an important part of what we do and who we are. And just two main points, because I think a lot of things have already been said, and that is health and history. I was on the Safe Routes to School subcommittee for Pinckney for many years, and we worked so hard to find routes for students. Two of my current neighbors bike, at least to bike to Broken Arrow every day. And whether it's raining or snowing or whatever it is, they're on their bikes. And I would hate that those students who were trying to build both their mental and physical and spiritual health are denied those easy routes. 23rd Street is scary for me to cross. I don't cross it typically, and so I just don't know how those kids are going to be making that transition. And then speaking to history, I didn't intentionally wear my 1854 painting hoodie today. I just find it very comfortable, but I'm very aware of the discussions you'll have later about the historic changes to that building. But this is a historic building too. The history of higher education and of history of education. This building was built in the height of the 1960s and 70s revolution around good architecture. And I know there's been challenges around that in terms of the open classroom, but don't fail to recognize that Broken Arrow, meaning peace, has just as much important for the neighborhood history and health as any school does. Thank you.
Thank you. Sarah Hess, Eve Bonner, and then Matthew Frederick.
Hello, good afternoon. Like the speaker before me, I am not a parent. My actually youngest is a senior in high school this year. So I don't really have a player in this race other than I live in this neighborhood. I grew up in this neighborhood. I went to this school. I've lived in Lawrence my entire life. And miraculously, I managed to go to KU and graduate with honors, all without walls at my elementary school. Who would have guessed that that would have even been possible? I'm also a government employee. I work as a civil engineer for the wealthiest county in Kansas. My maximum merit increase is a small percentage, less than $1 increase. That's my maximum merit increase, working for the wealthiest county in Kansas. It's not Douglas County, if that's any guess. It is the wealthiest. As also a government employee, something that and no one here in this room wants the school to be closed. That's not already obvious to everyone on the board. I've not heard one person get up here and go, sounds like a really good plan. Sounds like a great plan. You can save a little bit of money, you know, but we're going to spend a couple $1 million refurbishing it. Great plan. I haven't heard anyone say that. We are a community. We are here to help. But something that hasn't been mentioned here today is transparency. As a government employee, I get paid from tax dollars. That means my agency, my department, and myself as a government employee, I must be completely transparent in everything I do and everything that we charge and how we access and allocate all of the funds. We have to show that to the public. I do not feel that you are giving the same consideration to this community with your lack of transparency and actually hiding figures and hiding numbers and not being fully transparent, and actually not giving the community the knowledge that we actually need to help and address the issues, this problem of lack of funds. We can't help if you don't give us that information. So please, help us help you. Thank you.
Eve Bonner, Matthew Frederick, and then Harmony Lavelle.
So what I'm about to share with you, you all hear the zip code me. But what you don't know is that...
Closer to the mic, thanks.
Okay, so what you don't know is that this is ongoing effort. And then so far we have collected 71 signatures, okay? And within this 71 signature, there are more outside this 71. They do not want to give a name, okay? And they currently work in the district, or they just don't feel comfortable to share their name, sign this letter. So let me read to you. Your vote to yes in closing Broken Arrow Elementary School is a great disappointment, and it's a clear testament that the wind of prejudice are still blowing across the land. You clearly know the profound impact your vote has on students, and consciously you vote. This board and the USD district management has a history of undermining and devaluing students attending Title I schools. You may frame and present data to justify your vote, but you cannot disguise your indifference attitude about education and educational equality and diversity. If carrying out the plan drafted by the boundary committee, you will close Broken Arrow Elementary School and ship all the kids, Title I kids, recipients, in 1 or 2 buildings. And this is a discrimination in actions. Your goal is to strengthen the systemic racial class bias that already exists in many aspects of our society. Instead of developing a improvement plan to uplift those kids, the kids who have more at-risk factors in dropping out of the pre-K-12 education, you choose to redraw the boundary and just put them, group them all in 1 building, 2 buildings. You even manufacture and sell pitch that your vote is to pay the teacher better. Okay, you use seemingly deceptive statements, serve no public good in my eye. So there's a quote that came from when I was attending KU's teacher education program. One of the faculty members' textbook that he put in there for us, for all the future educators. Equality is based on the premises that all students, regardless of their race, color, national origin, gender, native language, age, socio-economic status, family structure and lifestyle, religious preference or disability, have the right to an education of equal opportunity.
Eve, thank you for your comments. If you would please provide a copy of the remainder of your comments to the board clerk, if you haven't already, that way she's right over here. Thank you. She can provide that to the board, please. Matthew Frederick, then Harmony Lavelle, and Robert Sutterman.
Good morning. Public speaking makes me anxious, so we'll take a second to get going. My name is Matthew Frederick. I'm here as a community member. My wife and I live at a house built by my great aunt and uncle, Frank and Gladys Burge, in 1954, and I'm here because I frankly don't understand this process. And I went to KU and received 2 undergraduate degrees from the University of Kansas. I received my law degree from the University of Kansas, and I received my master's in business administration from the University of Kansas Online Business School. So the idea that in a budget discussion I would have to do over 100 hours of research on my own and look at over 1,000 pages of Word presentations and other documents to even figure out what's going on, if every person in this room does not understand exactly what's happening and why it's happening, and I'm not so sure that everybody sitting up here on the board knows exactly what's happening in the budget process. It's a very interesting process, and I find it very interesting that I don't even know what the budget cuts are for. Is it for the 2022-2023 school year? Is it for the 2023-2024 school year? Is it anticipation of the legal maximum letter that the district is going to receive on June 15th? When it originally planned for its budget to be excessively high to begin with in August of last year, so that it wouldn't have to go back to the public to receive approval to spend extra money on the off chance that the legal max letter comes in and allows the board to spend additional funds. I think that that's especially problematic. I think that the lack of transparency in this process is especially problematic. I know that there is a general ledger budget, that there is an expense budget, that these are Excel documents with worksheets that should contain line item expenses of everything the district spends its money on, and the district should, and the board should, make that information public. It could be uploaded in a matter of minutes. There would be no problem with doing that, and there is no reason not to do that. Additionally, RSP and Associates should make all of their data at a granular level public. It's either public data to begin with, downloaded from the GIS database, or it's data that the district provided to RSP and Associates, who the district has employed for over 12 years, during which we have faced a number of budget challenges. I find that interesting in light of the purpose of RSP and Associates to begin with. I think that I will submit a document that contains, over the last 5 years, all of the check vouchers that have been submitted by the district. And in closing, I'm not so sure that the board actually has the authority to vote on Monday to close the schools because it has failed to comply with ASA 72-1431 because it has not published a notice 2 weeks in a row with the time, date, and place. And that needs to be addressed as well. Thank you.
On the side, please, no pause, or we will have to stop. Thank you. All right, Harmony Lavelle, and then Robert Sutterman and Brianna Hodge.
So we know that studies show how important it is that children are able to have and maintain friendships and consistent relationships with supportive adults, and the profound effects this has on their social and emotional development. Studies show that children who are moved around a lot and don't feel consistently supported in their youth are much more likely to become addicted to drugs and alcohol and engage in risky behaviors as teens and adults. My son started at Broken Arrow this year after being bounced around to many different schools that weren't able to accommodate his special needs. He struggles with severe sensory dysregulation and other mental and physical health issues. Since he started at Broken Arrow, not only have the teachers and the staff gone above and beyond to help support him, but he's made the most amazing friends here. These friends have helped him to feel welcome and like he finally belongs somewhere. Leaving Broken Arrow would mean that my son would yet again be separated from his friends and from his support group. My son has high needs, he's also high risk, and he needs to be able to stay here at Broken Arrow. The importance of small neighborhood schools can't be understated. Broken Arrow already has full classes and deserves more support. We should not be dispersing its students into neighboring small schools where the classrooms will be even more overcrowded and each child will receive less support. There's also an issue of accessibility. I live out in the country south of town. The new boundaries don't take into consideration that there's no access to and from our newly assigned school because they're having us go down K10 to this poorly designed intersection at Wakarusa. I can get in and I can't get out. This is an issue. I understand the importance of needing to balance the budget, but doing so at the expense of our children's quality of education and the support that can only be offered by smaller neighborhood schools is not the answer. That does not improve education. There has to be another way. And one last thing, I like the open floor plan.
Okay, Robert Sutterman, then Brianna Hodge, then Eve Anderson.
Yes, hello, I'm Bob Sutterman.
Sir, can you please write up on the mic? So
And I'm having trouble with my voice, I hope you'll bear with me. In the interest of time, I'm going to just jump quickly through the items here. First of all, I've lived in this neighborhood for 35 years. We moved here because of the Broken Arrow program at that time. I don't know how that compares to what we have now. But the open classrooms and the multi-level grades is something we actually sought out. My wife and I have both been educators. We work in mental health. We both have business backgrounds and business degrees in site counsel, PTO, etc. On the assumption that Cordley and Schweigler will be the places that were made here, I find most of those equally acceptable from my point of view as a person who knows the schools as I knew them in the past and so on. The bigger problem I see is the one having to do, and I realize that as a district we have to look at issues of capacity utilization, issues of equality, but I suspect that my feeling is that perhaps you have not looked at as much at the walking safety issues and perhaps the housing stock characteristics that have been alluded to in the past year. We live in a neighborhood here where houses are somewhat affordable yet, and many people with both parties are working, need to have their children walk to school. With that in mind, what does it look like to walk to these two schools? Yesterday, after talking to someone from the district, it was very helpful to call me back after I asked the question. Wanted to look at the issues having to do with sidewalks, walking spaces, and areas that you can walk in, and also the distances and the habitat risk. If you live right where we do now, and you're going to walk to either one of these two schools, first of all, it's a mile and 2/10 of a mile. From here to Cordley, front door, from the entrance right up here. Take the same distance to Schweigler, the distance is equal. But the safety issues are substantially different. If you want your child to walk in a space that's well open and openly accessible, this route before they would be substantially safer, and it would involve only one crossing. Going the other direction, if you take a look at 22nd Street and 22nd Terrace, there are no sidewalks there. So that means your child would have to walk either along 27th Street and then go all the way down to Ridge Court, unless you had them across the trail, the Mason's Trail. There are safety issues with the Mason's Trail. If you're going to have that, have you coordinated with the city? We're not always good at that. For example, when Free State High School was built, that school was imposed on the district in terms of expense. And you talked about this in terms of crossings at 3 or 4 spots on 23rd Street. You'll need to cross down at Ridge Court. Possibly at Ridge Court, you're going to have a crossing at Oswald, and you'll probably have to have a crossing at Louisiana and Alabama.
Thank you.
Or one or the other of those.
If you have written comments that you want to.
I don't. If you have someone who'd like to talk about this, I have all the distances and so on, and I'd be happy to have you approach me, I'd be happy to do that.
Okay, thank you. All right, Brianna Hodge, then Eve Anderson, then Holly Cordell.
Hi, I'm Bree. I have a kindergartner here and an incoming kindergartner next year. I just wanted to echo what some other people have said. Basically, just these numbers don't make sense to anyone. We need more transparency. We need more time. There have been so many suggestions from the community. We need to be looking into alternative energy. $300,000 seems like a pretty small amount to me to cause such a huge upheaval, considering, that's not much more than one person's salary. I think that we need more time to consider this, and I wanted to share a personal story. My kindergartner just found out yesterday that the school is closing, and we sat in the car for 15 minutes while she cried. And one of the first things she said was, "What's going to happen to Miss Enoch?" So, yes, this is a huge emotional toll for all of us. Miss Green is an exceptional principal. She is an asset to this community. I think that I just ask all of you, I know this is a hard job, I don't envy any of you, but we need to come together and look at other options and show some more transparency. No one understands what's going on, and that's a problem. People should at least understand why this is happening. Thank you.
Eve Anderson, Holly Brindell, and then Jen Elm.
Hello. I wanted to start by thanking the board for not closing Woodlawn. I believe that would have been a deeply inequitable situation and not fair at all to the North Lawrence community, so I wanted to thank everyone who voted no on that. There have been many good points made today, and I feel like I'm repeating some of them, but the enrollment increasing, it doesn't make sense to close a school where enrollment is increasing. Adding children to all the other schools just limits the amount of resources that children have. And it's not just teachers, but it's the administrative staff, the librarians, the music teachers, the mental health staff. And so by closing schools and shuffling kids around, you're increasing trauma to an already at-risk population and then giving them fewer resources. I don't believe that that's in the best interest of our families and our children or our teachers. A small bump in pay is not going to make up for the difference of the stress that they're going to have dealing with children who are traumatized and upset and already at risk. I understand that there has been said that there's $8 million worth of renovations needed to this. I think that that's obviously arguable by some of the comments, but I just wanted to mention, to me it doesn't make sense. We're saying to close the school because it needs money to fix it, and then we're saying that we're gonna put 6th graders in here. Well, we would still end up spending that same money. So to me, that math doesn't make much sense. I would love for you to consider some other creative ideas that people have said. And lastly, I know that you see a lot of the same people at these meetings. This is my first time at this meeting. I'm not usually someone to come and speak up. And I felt compelled to come because I feel like I'm representing the silent majority in this community, the people that I hear every day, no matter who I talk to, saying that they do not believe this is a good idea. I hear the lack of confidence that is increasing year after year, and that will drive down enrollment. That will turn families away. I talk to young adults and their families who still talk about Wakarusa and how upsetting that was and how they felt betrayed. I know that hard decisions need to be made. I know that sometimes probably schools need to close, but I think that you need to take into account the reputation and the bad faith that happens when the community strongly says last year, we do not want this, and this year it's the same thing being suggested. I appreciate that there was a planning. I believe 5 years worth of projections is not, it's short-sighted. 5 years is not much. We close the school, and then 10 years later, are we gonna have to build a new one because of the growth in the area? And what will the financial implications of that be? So I just want to say, I think that you need to take all of that into consideration and to remember that.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Holly Gordell and then Jen L.
Good morning, I'm Dr. Gordell. And I'm here because almost 20 years ago, education is what brought me and my family to Lawrence. Joining the faculty with KU. My husband at the time was a math educator in this district, and I have 2 children that go to this school. So we have a home, and we bought, all of that everyone's talked about. Now, as a data methodologist and policy analyst, I kind of wanted to focus on those things. I think it's pretty plainly clear what people are asking of you in that regard. So instead, I'd like to say something about my son, who's an artist. And when he was sitting down at the kitchen table to contribute art in support of his civic responsibility for this event, we're putting together linking chains, and I'm writing on some, and he's writing on some, my daughter's writing on some, and mine are like, save the schools, and love, and let's do this, and I looked and watched what my children were writing, and they were saying, save Mrs. Green, save Mrs. Howard, save Mrs. Babin, save Mrs. Self. It is individual to them, but it's also a communal experience. What I really love about the second half of this meeting is that hopefully it's giving you the energy about consideration of more time. We really do need more time. So I will leave you with this. I would ask 3 practical things for Monday. First, to decouple the vote for the closure from the vote on accepting the proposed boundary change plan. These should be separate. If the board even has authority to be taking these votes. In addition to that, ask, include a transportation plan. I think that's been talked about in this second section. Also, we need to see an approved 2023-24 transfer form. We've been told as parents that this keeps getting deferred. So these would be some practical things to think about as you're going into making this change. So practically speaking, decoupling those votes come Monday, transportation plan, and take the time. I'm okay kicking a can down the road sometimes with certain things. If we can get together some more information. Thank you for supporting our teachers by being here for the work that you do. And I think that's it. Thank you.
All right, and Jen L, are you here? Okay, thank you.
Hi, I just kind of feel like our kids have been through enough. When are the kids going to have to stop going through enough? COVID hit. Now this is hitting. Nothing has been talked about the trickle-down effect of what happens when they go to middle school. These are boundaries set for elementary schools. Are these boundaries set for middle school? So I send my kid to South for elementary school. Is she going to bounce back to Billy Mills for middle school? What consistency is there? I just might ask you that. These kids have been through enough. And if you ask teachers, just ask them, is pay enough? Well, I would like pay, but maybe there's another monetary incentive. We can all work together. You know, it's just, kids have been through enough. Thank you.
Okay, that concludes our list of public commenters. At this time, could I have a woman to read the public hearing closure motion?
Do you have it up?
I have it up, I can read it. Okay.
I move the Board of Education close the March 25th, 2023 school closure public hearing for Broken Arrow Elementary School.
This is Kay, I second.
Shannon Kimball?
Yes.
Paula Smith? Yes. Karen Hill?
Yes.
Jonathan D. Blackwood?
Yes.
Kate Emerson?
Yes.
G.R. Gordon Ross?
Yes.
Kelly Jones?
Yes.
Okay, motion passes 7. Go ahead.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. I want to thank everyone for coming this morning and for sharing your comments with us. The board appreciates hearing from each and every one of you and for your time and your advocacy. And at this time, motion to adjourn would be in order from the board.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.